So today we're going to be making a miniature pinata because I saw one in the store and I was like, this is adorable, but you know what would make it 100 times cuter if it was 1/10 of the size. So that is what we're going to be doing today. I'm just starting to sketch it out on cardstock because I want to make like their traditional little dog pinata, and I was like trying to figure out like how to do this, and I fully acknowledge this sketch is not very cute, but I am going to cut it out just so I can see what it looks like better. And right now it's kind of looking like a dog mixed with a giraffe. So I'm making prototype number 2 now. I'm definitely going to make his body a little bit more in proportion to the size of his neck. So this I feel like is a little bit better of a look. So now we can cut it out. Yeah, I feel like this guy looks so much better. Like I just need to round out his butt a little. Okay, now that he is looking cute, I'm going to trace him again to get the second side of the pinata. So now that we have his front and back, I gotta decide how wide I want him. I'm thinking maybe a 1/2 inch wide would be a pretty good size. So I'm gonna cut a 1/2 inch strip of this cardstock to build his body. I'm just going around and marking off all the different sides of his body that I'm gonna have to cut out of this cardstock. This was a lot to have to do all these little markings, but then I was like, you know what I really need to do is use a ruler and actually make sure all of these are straight, because I struggle. I don't know if do I not know how to use a ruler? I'm starting to think I don't know how to use a ruler because no matter what I do now, I feel like nothing I do comes out straight. So here are the little pieces we're gonna have to cut out. I got the first one cut out, and then I almost started the second, and I was like, wait, no, I should not do that because then I will lose track of what is supposed to go where. So I'm just using normal tacky glue for this and a toothpick for precision. The first one went on pretty smoothly. Now we just need to see how the rest go on. So this is what I was meaning when I said I don't think I know how to use a ruler, because look at this. There's like that little bit of an overhang to show me I did not cut this correctly. Or maybe I just didn't measure it correctly. But at least the good thing is we're going to be covering the shell with tissue paper, so it's going to hide a lot of these imperfections. And also some of these sides, I struggled way more than I should have to get them to stick on. Like this front leg, I don't know what it was about him. He just did not want to participate. And then we moved on to the face, which had all of these tiny little sides I was trying to stick together. Yeah, this was another guy who just did not want to stay in place. And I just kept reminding myself, I'm like, okay, once he is on, we only have 3 more sides to go. And they're bigger sides. Thankfully, these big sides went on pretty well. But here is what our pinata is currently looking like. Now we just have to do the top of it. For this, I'm just coating it in glue because I'm like, I would rather just coat it in glue than try to put glue along the ridges. So that is what we're doing. But as I put this on, I realized I messed up somewhere along the line. I messed up because he doesn't really fit, even though he is a carbon copy of the other side. So with this, I just had to add a little bit more glue and squeeze things into place. And overall, he turned out pretty well. I did have to cut a little tiny scrap of paper to fill in one of these holes, but now we can cover him in this tissue paper. I'm just using this confetti pack because the tissue paper is already pre-cut, so that's one less thing I need to do. So now I can just separate out all the colors and figure out how we want to decorate him. So I'm thinking we're going to start with orange first, and I decided to cut the tassels before gluing the tissue paper on because it was going to be like way harder to do the tassels after I glued it on. So I'm just doing a line of glue and then sticking on the tissue paper. It's pretty easy. But I will warn you guys now, this was very much like me trusting the process because some of these layers did not look so good. But now that the orange is done, we can get started on the red. And this was so much easier because I wasn't having to wrap them around the legs. I could just like lay down the layers. The tissue paper did get bunched up in a few places, especially when it got a little too much glue on it. But thankfully, I think the tassels will end up covering any of that ugliness. But now that the red is done, let's move on to the pink. So the pink, I was just like, ooh, I think it's a little too see-through. So let's just add a second layer. And even with the second layer, I'm like, it's still pretty like transparent, but thankfully this is gonna get hid under the next layer of tassels. So you won't really see this glue part. So now we can move up to his neck and his back. I decided to do it in the yellow, and as you can see, again, the yellow is pretty transparent, so we're doubling up the layers again. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with his back, so just cutting them into shorter little layers I think looked pretty good. I did have to add a little bit more of a transition between his back and his sides because I noticed like that really stood out. Now we have the blue layer, and again, this is one we have to double up. Wrapping this around his neck though, it was so hard. Like trying to get this to stick to the underside of his chin just like wasn't happening. Okay, so now we are moving on to his face, where I'm just coating this entire thing with glue, and then I'm just going to run a piece of tissue paper to cover his face. Just try to get a general blanket down first. I don't think I'm going to be doing any of the tassels along his face, so really we're just going for coverage. Then I can add a piece of tissue paper to both sides of his head. I'm cutting little notches to make sure it lays down smoothly and covers up this little white patch. And here's what our little dog is looking like. He needs an eye though, so I'm going to add this little reflective circle to give him little eyeballs. Like, oh my god, isn't he adorable? I think I just need to fill in some of the sparse parts, and this is his final look. I think he is so cute. Yes, he's not a piñata that you can fill with things, but he is kind of held together with tape and glue. So if you hit him hard enough, he will still fall apart. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I will see you next time.